Hello, welcome to Insight to Management. This is the second video of the series where we see the tale of marketing from the theory perspective. If you are a student who is finding it hard to understand the marketing concepts, or someone who is going to sit for a marketing interview, or a professional who just want to revisit the marketing concept, or just a marketing enthusiast, then this is the video for you. I will go slowly and starting from very basic to help explain the concept as easily as possible. Alright, let's start. Today, we are going to understand the difference between marketing and selling. Both terms are often used together, however, they are distinctly different while at the same time intertwined among themselves. To get a better picture, let's try to put a roadmap of a typical product lifecycle. For example, say that of an FMCG product. Point to note that a roadmap of a product could be different from industry to industry and from product to product. For a simple generic one, it starts with a company trying to understand the customers. They try to find out what are the needs of the customers in the market. Are those needs aligned with their own capabilities? Then they do a market research study. They go into depth to understand to better know the problems of their customer. They also do a market study to find out whether there is any current product which solves the problems of the customer, and if there are in the market, what are the pros and cons of those products. Once they have identified the problem and well confident with their research, then they try to make a plan of how they will execute it. Where the factories would be set up, what would be the budget, what would be the workforce requirement, legal requirements, etc. They also decide on the price of the product. There are multiple ways of how a price of the product is decided. We'll come to that on later episodes. They also decide on the strategy of branding. How will they position the product? What will be the major highlights? Who will be the brand ambassador? How would be the packaging look, the taglines, etc. Also, what type of ads will it be? Which medium to use for advertisement, and so on and so forth. While doing so, one thing is to keep in mind is the long-term visions or goals of the company. Does the company wants the product to a market leader, or does it want to extend the product to a new geographics, or what sort of brand extension can it give? All the future goals to be kept in mind while deciding the initial strategies. For example, if company wants the product to expand to different countries in the future, it would look for a person for brand ambassador role who is well known in both the countries, rather than one which is well known in only one. So all this so far comes under strategy and planning part. Then it goes for execution. Let's not go deep into that and let's represent the entire execution part with a box and name it manufacturing. So under it, there would be procurement of raw material, logistics, factories, production, basically the entire operation chain. Once the product is manufactured and ready to be dispatched from factories, it's go to central warehouses. Here, most of the products get centrally stored and then it get distributed to region or area wise. It typically goes to a wholesaler, then to a distributor, then to a retail store from which you, me, and typical customer generally buy the products. So this is how a typical FMCG product looks like, and if I had to classify it, then this much is predominantly what marketing is responsible for, and this much is what falls under sales. But that doesn't mean that the parts that are not linked to marketing has no connection to marketing, and similarly the parts that are not linked to sales has no connection to sales. Before we go into interlink, let's see where the company generally makes money. The point where products moves from warehouses to wholesalers is the place where a company typically makes money in exchange of their good. Now let's see how things are interlinked. When the product is out and in the hands of the customer, that is when marketing tries to get the feedback from the customer, what they like about it, what they didn't, so that they can modify the product to make it better. Now if you see, there are three external bodies in the life cycle that are not part of the company, that are retailer, distributor, and wholesaler. Now you might think, why would a retailer, distributor, wholesaler will keep and sell your product rather than your rivals? Well, that's because you keep them a part of your profit. And how much will it be? That comes from the pricing strategy. So what is the cut that a wholesaler, distributor, and retailer will get will come from how you define your pricing strategy. Also, for a product to be bought first, the customer should know about the product. Thus, how much the customer knows about your product depends on how good you brand and advertise your product. And finally, the amount or quantity that is required in manufacturing or how much is required to manufacture comes to a long chain where first all of the demands from the customer is seen. That information get passed to retailers, then to distributors, then to wholesalers, and then finally it goes to manufacturing. If you see all this, that falls under marketing. You see that everything is done whether to understand the customer or branding or advertisement. Basically, it is trying to pull the customer towards the product. And things that you see under selling that are more of pushing the products towards the customer to the chains of retail and distributor. Thus, you can say that marketing is more of a pull phenomenon and selling is more of a push phenomenon. So in marketing, you use your different branding, different advertisement, you plan it so that you can pull the customer towards your product. Whereas in selling, you use channels like distributor, retailer, wholesaler, so that you can push the product towards the customer. That's all I have for this part. Hope this gave you some concept to understand the difference between selling. Thank you for watching the video. Hope to see you on the next one.